The stars looked different from the observation deck of the U.S. horizon. Commander Eric Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the unfamiliar patterns of light as humanity's first interstellar vessel pushed deeper into the Centauri system. After 3 months of faster-than-light travel, they had finally arrived. Beautiful, isn't it? Olivia Wright joined him at the viewport. As the ship's science officer, she had spent most of the journey analyzing the strange signal that had brought them here. Beautiful and terrifying, Eric admitted. We're farther from Earth than any human has ever been. The U.S. horizon represented the pinnacle of human achievement. Built in the orbital shipyards above Mars in 2087, it carried a crew of 120 specialists. Earth had established colonies on Mars and Europa, but this was humanity's first real step into the stars. Commander Miller to the bridge. The announcement pulled Eric from his thoughts. When Eric arrived, communications specialist Lisa Reeves was hunched over her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the display as she worked. "We're receiving a transmission," she said without looking up. "It's on the same frequency as the signal we followed here." "Put it on screen," Eric ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing a being unlike anything they had seen before. It had smooth blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and spoke with a mouth that moved in strange ways. "I am Port Authority Nexus Catal of the Verudian Collective," the alien said in perfect English. "Your primitive vessel has been detected entering sovereign space. Identify yourselves immediately." Eric stepped forward. "I am Commander Eric Miller of the Earth ship U.S. Horizon. We come in peace as explorers and potential friends." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your propulsion system is inefficient. Your hull materials are rudimentary, yet you managed to decode our navigation beacon. Interesting. You may approach the 4th planet and establish orbit. A delegation will meet you." The screen went dark. "They spoke English," Engineer Daniel Carter said from his station. "How is that possible?" "They must have analyzed our broadcasts," Olivia suggested. "Earth has been sending signals into space for over 200 years. Eric turned to his crew. "Whatever technology they have, we need to be careful. Prepare the landing shuttle. Olivia, Daniel, and Lisa, you're with me. We're going to meet our neighbors." 6 hours later, their shuttle descended through cloud layers towards a sprawling city. Massive structures of crystal and metal reached into the sky. Ships of various designs moved in perfect patterns through the air. "Their level of advancement is at least 3 centuries beyond ours," Daniel whispered as they landed on a designated platform. A group of the blue-skinned aliens waited for them. The tallest stepped forward. "I am Kirvosh, assigned as your cultural liaison. The High Council has granted you an audience out of curiosity." They followed Kirvosh through corridors of impossible architecture. Other aliens stopped to stare at the humans, some making those strange laughing sounds. "What are they saying?" Eric asked quietly. Lisa, who had been watching closely, answered. "They're amused by us. I can read body language across species. They think we're cute, like children." They entered a massive chamber where 12 aliens sat on elevated platforms. The central figure wore elaborate decorations. "Supreme Counselor Zex Arved," Kirvosh announced with a bow. "I present the humans." Zex Arved looked down at them with all 4 eyes. "So these are the builders of the crude vessel. How remarkable that such primitive beings managed to reach us." Eric stepped forward. "We may not have your level of technology, but humanity has much to offer. We seek friendship and knowledge." The Supreme Counselor made that laughing sound again. "You speak bravely for a species still crawling from its cradle. Your achievements are quaint first steps, nothing more." As the aliens continued to discuss the humans as if they weren't present, Daniel nudged Eric and pointed discreetly to the wall behind the council. Strange symbols were carved into the ancient stone, glowing faintly with inner light. "Those look important," Daniel whispered. Eric nodded slightly, memorizing the patterns. Something told him these symbols might matter more than the Verudians' mockery. The four humans stood uncomfortably in the grand hall as the Verudian council members spoke among themselves in their native language. Eric tried to maintain a dignified posture despite feeling like a child brought before adult judges. The council has reached a decision, Supreme Counselor Zex Arvid finally announced. Your species is deemed insufficiently evolved for full diplomatic relations with the Verudian collective. You will be granted observer status only. Eric stepped forward. With respect, Supreme Counselor, you've barely given us a chance to. You arrived in a ship using fusion power, Zex Arvid interrupted. Your communication systems rely on electromagnetic waves. Your bodies are fragile and unmodified. These are the marks of a juvenile species. The other council members nodded in agreement. One of them said something that made the entire chamber fill with the strange Verudian laughter. Lisa leaned closer to Eric. He just compared us to their historical equivalent of cave people discovering fire. We will provide you with basic cultural information suited to your comprehension level, Zex Arvid continued. Kervosh will remain your guide during your stay. As they were led from the chamber, Daniel fell into step beside Eric. Did you see those symbols on the wall? He whispered. They looked like they were carved thousands of years ago, but they were glowing. I noticed, Eric replied quietly. And did you see how the council members never looked directly at them? Almost like they were avoiding them. Kervosh led them through the city to what appeared to be living quarters. The rooms were designed for Verudian physiology, with chairs too large and tables too high. You will attend a formal dinner tonight, Kervosh informed them. It is customary to welcome even lesser species with proper ceremony. After Kervosh left, Olivia pulled out a small device and scanned the room. No listening devices that I can detect, she said. We need to learn more about those symbols, Eric said. Lisa, you have the best memory for patterns. Can you reproduce what you saw? Lisa took out her tablet and began to draw. There were 12 distinct symbols arranged in a circle. They reminded me of some ancient Earth writing systems, but more complex. I noticed similar markings on buildings as we walked through the city, Daniel added. They're mostly on older structures. The newer architecture doesn't have them. These people are hiding something, Olivia said. The way they dismiss us so completely feels rehearsed, like they're following a script. That evening, they were escorted to a massive dining hall filled with hundreds of Verudians. Their table was set apart from the others and noticeably smaller. They've put us at the kids' table, Lisa muttered as they took their seats. Throughout the meal, Verudians would approach their table, stare curiously, then return to their companions with amused gestures. One group of younger Verudians kept pointing and making what were clearly jokes at the humans' expense. Daniel nudged Eric and pointed discreetly to the far wall. More of the ancient symbols decorated a massive stone archway. I need to get a closer look, Lisa whispered. If I could photograph them clearly, maybe we could start figuring out their meaning. Create a distraction, Eric said to Daniel. Something that won't seem threatening but will draw attention. Daniel nodded and stood up, pretending to be dizzy. He stumbled slightly, knocking over a decorative sculpture. It didn't break, but the noise caused most Verudians to turn and stare. While attention was diverted, Lisa slipped away toward the archway. She quickly took several photos with her tablet, then returned to her seat before anyone noticed her absence. Got them, she whispered as Daniel apologized profusely to their hosts. Later that night, back in their quarters, Lisa displayed the images on her tablet. The symbols glowed with a faint blue light in the photographs. Whatever these are, Eric said, studying the strange markings, I think they're far more important than the Verudians want us to know. The next morning, Kervosh arrived at their quarters with news. The Council has granted you access to our public archive. You may learn about our history and culture at a level suitable for your understanding. Eric nodded politely, hiding his annoyance at the condescension. We are grateful for this opportunity. The archive was housed in an enormous crystal dome in the center of the city. Inside, data terminals lined the walls, and Verudians moved silently between them, absorbed in their research. "This section has been prepared for you," Kervosh explained, leading them to a small area near the entrance. "The information has been simplified for non-Verudian minds." Olivia examined the nearest terminal. "These are basically children's books," she whispered to Eric. "They're treating us like elementary school students. Stay here and learn what you can," Eric told his team. "I'll try to convince Kervosh to show us more." As Eric engaged their guide in conversation, Lisa noticed a maintenance worker entering a doorway half hidden behind a decorative column. The worker pressed a sequence on a panel, and the door slid open. Lisa memorized the sequence, then waited until both the worker and Kervosh were distracted. She slipped away from the group and hurried to the hidden door. The panel responded to her touch. She entered the sequence she had seen, and the door opened silently. Lisa stepped through into a dimly lit corridor. The air felt older here, carrying a scent of dust and time. Lisa moved carefully, following the corridor as it sloped downward. She passed several branching paths before reaching another door. This one stood partially open. Lisa peered through the gap and saw a vast chamber filled with ancient books and scrolls. Unlike the sleek technology of the main archive, this place felt untouched by modern Verudian society. Lisa slipped inside. The walls were covered with the same glowing symbols they had seen before. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with an open book. She approached the pedestal cautiously. The book's pages were made of a thin metallic material, and the text was written in the same symbols as those on the walls. As Lisa drew closer, the symbols began to glow more brightly. She pulled out her tablet and began scanning pages, capturing as much data as she could. The symbols seemed to react to her presence, pulsing with blue light when she came near. "What are you doing here?" a sharp voice demanded. Lisa spun around to see two Verudian guards at the entrance. Their 4 eyes were wide with shock. "I'm sorry," Lisa said quickly. "I got lost looking for the restroom. This door was open, and This area is forbidden to outsiders," one guard said, advancing toward her. "How did you get through the security door?" "It was open," Lisa lied. She slipped her tablet into her pocket. "I meant no harm." The guards escorted her back to the main archive, where Eric and the others were searching for her. "Your companion wandered into a restricted area," the guard told Kervosh. Kervosh's 4 eyes narrowed. "What did you see?" he asked Lisa. "Just more books," she said innocently. "I didn't understand anything." "The archive visit is concluded," Kervosh announced. "You will return to your quarters immediately." Back in their rooms, Lisa pulled out her tablet. "I found something incredible," she whispered, activating the security field Olivia had set up to prevent eavesdropping. She showed them the images she had captured, pages of symbols, diagrams, and what appeared to be star maps. "This is a completely different language from what the Verudians use now," she explained. "But look at this." She pointed to a recurring pattern in the symbols. "This appears over and over, usually at the beginning of sections. I think it might be a title or a name." Daniel studied the images. "These look like technical diagrams. Maybe instructions for building something." "The Verudians are hiding their own history," Eric realized. "These symbols are from whoever came before them, and they don't want us anywhere near this information," Olivia added. "The question is why." Lisa zoomed in on one particular image. "I think I might know. Look at this star map." They all leaned in, and Eric's eyes widened. There, unmistakably marked among the alien stars, was the location of Earth. The 4 humans huddled around Lisa's tablet late into the night. Eric had placed signal jammers around their quarters to prevent Verudian surveillance. "I've run a comparison program on these symbols," Lisa explained. "There are patterns that repeat across all the images." "What have you found?" Olivia asked. "Something impossible," Lisa replied. "These symbols share structural elements with ancient human writing systems, particularly Sanskrit and Sumerian cuneiform." Daniel stared at her. "That can't be right. How would alien writing look anything like Earth languages? Unless they aren't originally alien, Eric said quietly. Unless whoever created these symbols visited Earth in our ancient past. Lisa nodded. I think these symbols were created by a civilization the Verudians call the forebearers. I found that word repeating in the Verudian texts near images of these symbols. She pulled up another image on her tablet. This appears to be a historical document. From what little I can translate, the forebearers were an advanced species that uplifted the Verudians thousands of years ago. They gave them technology, knowledge, everything they needed to become a spacefaring civilization. And then they disappeared, Olivia added, pointing to another section. This part seems to describe their departure. The Verudians expected them to return, but they never did. That explains why the Verudians treat us like children, Eric said. They were given everything by their gods. We had to earn our advancement through thousands of years of struggle. Daniel had been quiet, studying one particular image. Look at this, he said finally. This section mentions something called the Great Test. Lisa leaned closer. You're right. And look at the symbol next to it. She pointed to a familiar shape. That's the star pattern of our solar system. They were testing us, Olivia asked. Or preparing us, Eric suggested. What if the forebearers visited Earth and left us clues instead of technology? What if they wanted us to develop differently than the Verudians? Lisa began rapidly scrolling through her captured images. Here, she said, stopping on a page covered in complex diagrams. This looks like an anatomical comparison. The image showed 3 different figures side by side. One was clearly Verudian, with its 4 eyes and blue skin. The middle figure was unmistakably human. The third was similar to both, yet different in subtle ways. The forebearers, Eric whispered. Look at the vocal apparatus, Olivia said suddenly. The diagrams focus on the throat and mouth structures. The human design is more similar to the forebearer than the Verudian is. Daniel's eyes widened. What if that's why the Verudians can't decode these symbols completely? What if they physically can't pronounce the forebearer language correctly? But we might be able to, Lisa said. Eric stood up and paced the room. According to what you found, the Verudians believe the forebearers will return when the worthy speak their words. They'd been waiting for their gods to come back, but what if they've been waiting for us instead? We need to test this theory, Olivia said. Can you translate any complete phrases from what you captured? Lisa began working on her tablet. I think so. If I combine what we know about ancient Earth languages with these patterns, I might be able to reconstruct some basic pronunciations. We need to be careful, Eric warned. If we're right, the Verudians might see this as a threat to their entire worldview. They believe they're the chosen ones of the forebearers. And we're just primitive cave people who shouldn't be playing with fire, Daniel added with a grim smile. Lisa looked up from her tablet. I got something. A short phrase that appears repeatedly in what seems to be ceremonial contexts. She squinted at the screen. If I'm reading this correctly, it translates roughly to awaken the path of stars. Eric looked at each of his team members. Tomorrow, we find out what happens when humans speak the words of the forebearers. Morning came with the soft chime of the Verudian day cycle. Eric and his team had barely slept, too excited by their discoveries. Kervosh arrived to escort them to a science exhibition where the Verudians would showcase their technological achievements. We need to see more of those symbols, Eric told his team quietly as they followed Kervosh through the city. Look for any old buildings or monuments. The exhibition hall was filled with incredible devices, machines that could rearrange matter at the atomic level, medical tools that could cure diseases instantly, energy sources that could power cities for centuries. Behold the gifts of the forebearers, Kervosh said proudly. Though your species may reach this level in another 1,000 years, if you survive that long. While Kervosh spoke with other Verudians, Daniel examined one of the devices closely. Something's odd about this technology, he whispered to Eric. It's advanced, but it looks frozen. What do you mean? Eric asked. There's no innovation here. Everything follows the same design principles, the same patterns. It's like they haven't developed anything new in centuries. They're just rebuilding what someone else taught them. Olivia noticed an elderly Verudian watching them from across the room. Unlike the others, who avoided eye contact with the humans, this one seemed genuinely curious. I think we have an admirer, she murmured to Lisa. The elderly Verudian approached them slowly. You look at our technology differently than other visitors, he said in a quiet voice. You examine it as builders, not as children seeing magic. We are builders, Lisa replied. Humans have created all our technology ourselves, through trial and error. The old Verudian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. My name is Venzal. I am a keeper of old knowledge. He glanced around to ensure no other Verudians were nearby. You have seen the ancient symbols, haven't you? Eric tensed. What makes you think that? I saw how your companion looked at the ceremonial archway last night. With recognition, not confusion. Lisa stepped forward. We found similar symbols in your archive. They share elements with some of our oldest writing systems on Earth. Venzal seemed to shudder. Follow me, he said. Not all Verudians are satisfied with the stories we are told. He led them to a quiet corner of the exhibition hall and activated a small device on his wrist. A privacy field shimmered around them. For generations, a small group of us have questioned the official history of the forebearers. Venzal explained. We believe they visited many worlds, including yours. Why would they give you technology but not us? Daniel asked. That is what we do not understand, Venzal admitted. But there is a chamber beneath the ancient temple where the oldest writings are kept. Writings our leaders cannot translate completely. Because the Verudian vocal structure can't produce certain sounds the forebearer language requires, Olivia suggested. Venzal's eyes widened. You know this already. Yes, exactly. Our throats and mouths cannot form the sounds needed to activate the deeper knowledge. But humans might be able to, Eric said. That is what some of us have theorized, Venzal agreed. There is a prophecy that says the forebearers will return when their words are spoken again. The High Council believes this means the forebearers themselves will return and speak. But what if? What if they meant someone else would speak their language? Lisa finished. Venzal nodded. I can help you access the temple chamber tonight when the guards change shifts. Why would you help us? Eric asked. Because our society is stagnant, Venzal said sadly. We worship the forebearers but do not understand them. We rebuild their machines but create nothing new. If humans can unlock their knowledge, perhaps both our species can move forward. Daniel had been quiet, thinking. I have an idea, he said finally. We need to build a device that can amplify and project specific vocal frequencies. If Lisa can pronounce the forebearer words, this device will ensure they're heard at exactly the right frequency and volume. I'll help you, Venzal offered. I can provide access to materials without raising suspicion. Tonight then, Eric said, extending his hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Venzal reached out his 3-fingered hand and clasped Eric's. Tonight, the old Verudian agreed. We discovered the truth together. Darkness had fallen over the Verudian city when Venzal arrived at the humans' quarters. He wore a plain gray robe that covered his blue skin. The guard shift changes in 20 minutes, he whispered. We must hurry. Daniel had spent the afternoon building the voice amplifier using parts Venzal had provided. The device looked like a simple necklace, but contained powerful technology. It will enhance the specific frequencies we need, Daniel explained as he handed it to Lisa. Just speak normally, and it will do the rest. They moved silently through the dimly lit streets. Venzal led them away from the main pathways, through narrow alleys between ancient buildings. The walls here were covered with the forebearer symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. Few Verudians come to this part of the city anymore, Venzal explained. They prefer the new districts with modern comforts. They reached a circular plaza surrounded by 7 tall pillars. In the center stood a domed building made of dark stone. Unlike the gleaming crystal structures of the modern city, this temple had an ancient, weathered appearance. This was the first structure the forebearers built when they arrived on our world, Venzal said. Our ancestors were still living in simple huts. As they approached the temple entrance, Lisa studied the symbols carved into the massive doors. These matched the phrases I translated, she whispered to Eric. The same patterns appear here. Venzal pressed his hand against a small panel beside the door. It slid open with a soft hiss. The temple is normally closed at night, he said, but as a keeper of old knowledge, I have access. They entered a vast circular chamber. The domed ceiling was covered with a map of stars. The walls were lined with the now familiar symbols, glowing with soft blue light. The sacred chamber is below, Venzal said, leading them toward the center of the room. Few Verudians have ever seen it. Suddenly, the main doors slid open. Kervosh stood there with 4 armed guards. I knew you could not be trusted, Kervosh said coldly. Humans are too curious for their own good. He turned to Venzal. And you, Elder, have betrayed your own people. These humans deserve to know the truth, Venzal replied, as do all Verudians. The truth is what the High Council decides it is, Kervosh snapped. He gestured to the guards. Take them all to detention. The council will decide their punishment. Eric glanced at Lisa and gave a small nod. It was now or never. Lisa stepped forward, the amplifier device glowing softly at her throat. She began to speak the words she had translated from the ancient texts. Awaken the path of stars, children of the cosmos return. Her voice echoed strangely in the chamber, the amplifier giving it a resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very stones. The symbols on the wall suddenly blazed with brilliant blue light. Kervosh froze, his 4 eyes wide with shock. What are you doing? Stop her. But before the guards could move, the floor beneath them began to shift. The central platform sank downward, forming a spiral staircase that descended into darkness. From below came a soft humming sound, growing steadily louder. The star map on the ceiling began to move, the stars rearranging themselves into new patterns. It's responding to her voice, Daniel whispered in awe. Suddenly, a beam of light shot up from the center of the spiral staircase. It projected a holographic image in the middle of the chamber, a figure that was neither human nor Verudian, but shared features with both. The hologram spoke in a language none of them understood, then switched to perfect Verudian, and finally to English. The second seedling speaks the awakening words. The time of reunion approaches. Kervosh fell to his knees. The forebearers return, he gasped. Not exactly, the hologram said. I am but an echo, a message left for when the children of 2 worlds would finally meet. The hologram turned to face the humans directly. Greetings, children of Earth. You have proven yourselves worthy by finding your own path to the stars. The hologram of the forebearer floated above them, bathing the temple in soft blue light. Everyone stood frozen, humans and Verudians alike, as the ancient message continued. I am Nexus, keeper of knowledge for the forebearer collective, the hologram said. This message was left for the day when both our seedling races would meet. News of the activation spread quickly. Within minutes, more Verudians began pouring into the temple, their 4 eyes wide with wonder and fear. What does it mean, seedling races? Eric asked. Long ago, we forebearers faced a choice, Nexus explained. Our civilization had reached its peak. We had conquered disease, mastered energy, and explored much of the galaxy. But we had lost something essential. The drive to grow, to overcome challenges. The hologram waved a hand, and the star map above transformed to show 2 planets, the Verudian homeworld and Earth. We chose 2 promising worlds with intelligent life still in early development. On one, we gave direct guidance and technology. The image showed forebearers teaching early Verudians to build machines. On the other, We left only clues and knowledge hidden in language and symbols. The image shifted to show forebearers carving symbols into stone on Earth as early humans watched from a distance. Supreme Counselor Zex Arvid pushed through the crowd that had gathered. "What is happening here?" he demanded. "The truth is being revealed," Venzal replied calmly. "We created an experiment," Nexus continued. "Two paths for intelligence to evolve. The Verudians were given technology and direct knowledge, allowing them to advance quickly but following our established patterns." Zexarvid's 4 eyes narrowed as he listened. "Humans were given challenges," Nexus said. "They were shown possibilities but left to discover solutions themselves. Their path was harder, filled with mistakes and suffering, but it forced them to innovate." "This is blasphemy," Zex Arvid hissed. "The forebearers chose us as their successors." "We chose both," Nexus corrected. "Each for different reasons, each with different gifts." The hologram gestured toward the spiral staircase. "Below lies the repository of knowledge, sealed until both seedling races were ready. It contains our complete scientific and cultural archive, not as a gift, but as a starting point for what you will create together." Daniel stepped forward. "Why did you leave? Why create us, and then abandon the experiment?" "We did not abandon you," Nexus replied. "We evolved. Physical form became a limitation. The forebearer consciousness now exists in a state beyond your current understanding. But we left this small part of ourselves behind, to witness the reunion." More and more Verudians crowded into the temple. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Others argued amongst themselves. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "That is for both your peoples to decide," Nexus answered. "But be warned, you are not alone in this galaxy. Beyond the boundaries of Verudian space lies the Cold Dominion, a predatory empire that consumes all advanced civilizations it encounters." The star map shifted again, showing a dark mass of stars at the galaxy's edge, slowly expanding. "They have detected your activities," Nexus continued. "They will come. Neither humans nor Verudians can face them alone." Zex Arvid stepped forward, his posture rigid with anger and confusion. "This cannot be true. We are the chosen ones of the forebearers. These humans are primitive, barely able to reach the nearest star." "And yet," Nexus replied, "they speak our language when you cannot. They solved puzzles you have studied for generations. Different paths, different strengths. Together, you may survive what comes." The hologram began to fade. "The repository is now open to both races. Use our knowledge wisely, but do not be bound by it. Create what we could not imagine." As the light dimmed, Nexus spoke a final message. "Remember, the experiment is not complete. It is just beginning." The hologram vanished, leaving the temple in silence. The spiral staircase glowed invitingly, leading down to the promised knowledge. Eric looked at Zex Arvid. "It seems we have much to learn from each other." For 3 days, chaos ruled the Verudian capital. Some citizens demanded the humans be given full access to the repository. Others called for their immediate expulsion from the planet. The High Council debated endlessly while guards surrounded the temple. Eric and his team remained under house arrest in their quarters, unsure of their fate. On the 4th morning, Kurvosh arrived. "Supreme Counselor Zex Arvid demands your presence at the temple," he said. His tone had changed, no longer mocking, but uncertain. When they arrived, they found the temple plaza filled with thousands of Verudians. A path cleared before them as they walked toward the entrance where Zex Arvid waited. "My people are divided," the Supreme Counselor said without greeting. "For generations, we believed ourselves the chosen inheritors of the forebearers. Now we learn we are merely half of an experiment." "Not merely half," Eric replied. "A necessary half. Different, but equal." Zex Arvid's 4 eyes studied Eric. "I have spent these days in the repository, reading the forebearer records. They speak of human adaptability, creativity, and persistence, qualities we Verudians have lost through generations of comfort. And we lack your stability, Your patience, your ability to build lasting institutions, Eric acknowledged. We humans often destroy what we create through haste and conflict. Zex Arvid nodded slowly. I have made a decision that not all my people support. Follow me. He led them down the spiral staircase into the repository. The vast underground chamber was filled with technology unlike anything they had seen before. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by control panels. This is a forebearer vessel, Zex Arvid explained, one of many stored beneath our cities. They were meant to be awakened when both seedling races reached maturity. Daniel examined the nearest panel with wonder. This technology is incredible. It makes everything in your exhibition hall look primitive by comparison. Yes, Zex Arvid admitted. We believed we had mastered forebearer knowledge, but we merely scratched the surface. He touched a control, and a holographic star map appeared above the platform. A red area highlighted one region. This is the current extent of the Coal Dominion. Their scout ships will reach our borders within one of your Earth years. What are you proposing? Eric asked. I am proposing necessity, Zex Arvid replied. The forebearer vessels require both human intuition and Varudian precision to operate. Their systems are designed to respond to both our mental patterns. Lisa understood first. You want us to work together. I am establishing a joint training program, Zex Arvid said. Mixed crews of humans and Varudians will learn to operate these vessels. We will send word to Earth to prepare your people for what is coming. And the Varudians who oppose this? Olivia asked. They will adapt, Zex Arvid said simply, as your people have always done. 3 months later, Eric stood on the bridge of the forebearer vessel Harmony. Beside him, Kervosh monitored the navigation controls. What had once been mockery between them had slowly transformed into respect. All systems ready, Commander, Daniel reported from engineering, where he worked alongside Varudian technicians. The neural interface is stable, Lisa added from her station. Both human and Varudian patterns are synchronized. Eric nodded to Zex Arvid, who stood as an observer on this first joint mission. Permission to depart. Granted, the Supreme Counselor replied. Remember, you carry the hopes of both our worlds. The massive ship rose silently from its underground hangar. On the surface, crowds of humans and Varudians watched together as the sleek vessel climbed toward the stars. In the repository below, the hologram of Nexus briefly appeared, unseen by anyone. It observed the departing ship and spoke softly. The children have taken their first steps together. The experiment continues. As the Harmony accelerated past the outer planets, Eric looked at his mixed crew, human and Varudian, working side by side. Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time to prepare for what's coming. The ship disappeared into the depths of space, carrying a message of unity and a warning of the storm on the horizon. The mockery had ended. The true test was just beginning.